I'm very curious to know a little bit about your business structure with Andrew.
Sure.
Because it looks like you guys very much, you're kind of interlinked. Your business partners, your brothers, you share money, extremely close, which we've seen. Do you have roles and responsibilities within the businesses, or do you just both do similar things? Like, what's the organizational structure or the roles and responsibilities of the everyday running of your businesses that you have?
Andrew is a lot more technical. Andrew is a lot more the spreadsheets, the staff, the micromanagement, and I'm more if Andrew gives me a big project to be in charge of and says, make sure this happens, then I have to manage, I guess, some of the larger things. But Andrew's role is arguably much more important because, I won't notice certain things. If our payment processor increases our payment processing fees by 0.2% and, tens of thousands of dollars are going missing, he'll notice and I won't notice. So Andrew's the guy who makes sure absolutely nothing goes wrong. I'm somewhat more of a people person. Andrew's, I guess, slightly more introverted. If there's business dinners that last till 2, 3 in the morning, he'll send me. He won't go himself.
Yeah.
But it's not something I've ever really thought about, and it's not something we've ever mapped out or planned. I think we just both are willing and happy to do what needs to be done. And there's this, I guess, the essence of our business relationship is not wanting to disappoint the other brother. I can't just vanish and take a week off. No, he's working. I have to work. When Andrew was on house arrest, I didn't leave the house. I wasn't on house arrest the second time around. I did 6 months on house arrest voluntarily because he was on house arrest.
Yeah.
There's this idea of not wanting to let the other guy down. And I think that's maybe the most powerful aspect of mine and Andrew's relationship. And it's why I encourage young men, especially when they're up and coming in the world, instead of renting an apartment, rent an apartment with a friend, an ambitious friend.
Right.
You'll both train more. You'll both work more. You'll both think more. You'll brainstorm more. You'll waste less time. I think the relationship I have with Andrew is the foundation to everything both of us have in our life, and I'm very grateful for it.
Who do you think works harder on the business?
Andrew, and Andrew would say Andrew, and I can't say it.
Do you get paid the same?
Well, yes, but we don't get paid in the. No,
but if you take a dividend out of the business, or however you look at it, you spend the same amount of money on stuff.
Do we spend the same amount of money on stuff? I don't know. I think Andrew. But then, whose stuff is it? If I buy a car or if he buys a car, it's both of our car. So, it doesn't really work that way at all. The person who wastes the most money is Andrew. But it's all in one, I'm not going to say where it is. Let's say it's all in one pot. I keep it next to my bed.
But what would happen if you started spending more money through the accounts that you have? Would he go, hey, what the hell?
At this point, it wouldn't matter. We have nothing left to buy. We discuss large purchases, and that's it. Real estate, hypercars, not supercars.
So he spends more money.
He spends more money.
He works more and brings more to the table, but you share money and kind of just...
He's addicted to cars. That's his only problem.
Yeah.
I'd have 7 or 8 cars if it were up to me.
When you were growing though in the earlier days, and you couldn't just buy a yacht, did you have limits of how much you could take out? Would you have been able to just, because if you're sharing money, you've got the business account, and you just said, I want to buy a yacht, but you couldn't really afford it. Maybe you could, and you would you be able to just go, I'm taking that out to buy a yacht?
I mean, it's always been this way, and large purchases have changed from a meal out to a super yacht. Large purchases back in the day were a lot smaller, but we've always discussed large purchases, and besides that, spend what you want. Yeah. And we've never really thought about it too much. I mean, you're asking questions that I've never thought about the answers to. And I can't really...
Do you know why, though? Because me and my brother are business partners.
Yeah.
So these are stuff...
So you run it that way.
No, I haven't said anything. I've been asking questions.
I'm guessing. I'm inferring from your questions that one of you spends more than the other.
No, actually. But we've talked about it. We've got a setup. Whereas I kind of sense that you just act and live. But it's worked,
We're together 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day. So it's not like... I don't see him and I check the account and there's a bunch of money missing. It's like we go out, we go to a car garage, we buy this, we go to the yacht show, we purchase this. Almost everything is a joint decision.
I think you live together, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
So that kind of makes it a bit different. If you had your house, he had his house, you had your family in your house, and it might be a little different, maybe.
Maybe.
So it's very interesting.
We'll always live together.
Will you?
Yeah, forever.
That's really interesting.
I'm never not going to live with him. I can't.
Really?
Yeah.
What about if he decided that he didn't want to anymore?
He wouldn't.
Is that an agreement?
No, it's not even an agreement. He wouldn't. He would absolutely hate to not live with me. And I'd hate to not live with him.
Why though? Is that because you get on, or because you're valuable to each other in business?
No, it's because there are like, in movies when you have like two magical objects and you bring them together and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Every great idea we've ever had, every, big kick forward we've ever had, it's us two sitting around a table smoking cigars, discussing ideas.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deprive him of that power, and he wouldn't deprive me of that power.
Does it upset your girlfriend's wives? Do they sometimes get a bit like, what the heck's this?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
It's a non-negotiable. It's just like, I'm trying to think of an example. Does me being tall upset people? Like, it's a non-negotiable. I can't change my height.
Yeah.
It's not something that anybody could possibly complain about. And I think if anybody in my life were upset by it at all, they'd know not to mention it, because why would you mention it? It's like to tell me to stop having brown eyes. It's not going to work. It's just part of the package.
Have you seen a lot of brothers inspired by your relationship when they've come closer together, or they've been? Because it's sad when you see brothers fall. I respect that a lot about you and Andrew. The fact that you've got such a strong sense of brotherhood and you work together, especially when I work with my brother. Yeah, I think it's really inspiring.
Those are my favorite inspirational stories. When brothers tell me that. They were living states apart in the United States, let's say 3 or 4 states apart. They didn't talk that much. They spoke on the phone once every month or so, or met at family gatherings. And now they've started a business together, or they're working together, or they've, just moved each other's families next to each other. So they're next door neighbors. Yeah. When I hear these stories, and all of these examples I gave are true. I've read them on my DMs. That's what I get. I guess that's what I get the most out of, when I hear that brothers have strengthened their relationship from Andrew and I. It's all good, the fitness stories and the weight loss stories, but there's also fitness guys out there. The brotherhood I have with Andrew, there's nothing I've ever seen on the internet, besides one pair of brothers, actually, that I thought was comparable. And I'm going to say one pair of brothers, and you probably remember them because you're English back in the day. My heart broke when one of the Chuckle brothers died. Yeah. Because he posted this thing on X, and he got almost no views and no likes on it because, he's really old now and people don't really remember him. He's got a small X account. And I read it and I just thought, I'm so fucking lucky to have Andrew. Because those two were together like their whole lives, every TV show, everything together. But besides me and Andrew, what other brothers are there out there as famous for their relationship as Andrew and I? So yes, there are other fitness guys. Yes, there are other money guys. But that's something that I think is quite unique to us. So when I hear those stories, that's what really makes me happy.
How do you feel when you see news articles, even yesterday, when I dropped my podcast with Andrew? Yeah. The BBC dropped their own little video.
BBC.
Saying Andrew Tate pulled a gun on a woman's face, allegedly.
Allegedly. So it's like, how long are they going to keep this up? First, First, we're misogynists. Then, for misogyny, homophobia, and racism, they tie into one big package. So when Andrew and I first started coming about, they said we're misogynistic, homophobic, and racist because they found a clip of me and my friends making racist jokes to each other, which all good friends do. And they dropped the racist very quickly because they had no idea that my father was a black man. So they were like, okay, well, he's not racist. Let's get rid of that. He's a misogynist. That's what it started as. Andrew Tate's a misogynist. Then the criminal accusations came. Andrew Tate's a human trafficker. Okay, well, I'm a human trafficker. Interesting. That was thrown out, by the way, in December 19th of last year. I'm going to make this clear because I say it on every podcast and no one covers it. The news didn't cover this. On December 19th last year, a judge threw the case out and said there's insufficient evidence to even have a trial about this. So that's what happened last year. That's one of the reasons I'm free today. That's one of the reasons I'm free. Everyone's like, well, why are they free? Well, because there wasn't enough evidence after 2.5 years of investigation for a judge to even think it was worthy of a trial. So then I was a human trafficker. Then I was a rapist. Now Andrew's gangs of London pulling guns on girls' heads and stuff 15 years ago, allegedly. I don't know where you'd get a gun in England 15 years ago. I was working as a telephone salesman. I don't know why Andrew would have had a gun. I don't know what they're going to come up with next.
He told me it was a water gun.
It may have been. I mean, I don't know if he's ever pointed a water gun at somebody. Probably, but he's certainly never owned a firearm illegally. And in the United Kingdom, you can't own a firearm legally. So he's certainly never owned a firearm. So I see these articles all the time, and I'm like, what are they going to come up with next? When that retard killed his girlfriend with a crossbow, they blamed Andrew for it. Yeah. They said, well, he consumed Andrew Tate content in the last 24 hours. Sorry. How many people? Maybe 100 million people consumed Andrew Tate content in the last 24 hours. 100 million, if you check their laptops, have consumed Andrew Tate content in the last 24 hours. How many of them commit a crime the same day? I don't care what the actual number is, but let's look at the other content he consumed. What did he do in the last 24 hours besides that? Because he watched Andrew Tate. Sure. What songs did he listen to? Did he listen to Taylor Swift in the last 24 hours? Potentially. She's one of the biggest artists in the world. Andrew's one of the most famous podcast guys in the world. So is Taylor Swift responsible for his crossbow massacre? Did he eat at Five Guys restaurant in the afternoon before he did it within 24 hours? Maybe the chemicals in Five Guys are responsible. Like, I don't care what this idiot did in the last 24 hours before he killed his girlfriend with a crossbow. There's absolutely, even if you take the most out of context clips of mine and Andrew's body of work over the last 13 years, you will never find anything that inspires you to kill somebody for any reason, unless it's just some sort of joke. But this retard has nothing to do with me, and I do not take responsibility for him. So I don't know what they're going to come up with next.